Hey there folks, Wrel here. I thought I'd put out another episode of Community Call for you, and this time we're going to be answering some questions. Honestly, I didn't receive a whole lot of questions specifically for the community call, but I do get a lot of the same questions day after day after day, and I thought that I'd throw some of those in the mix as well. So we'll knock out all of those quick ones first, and then we'll finish up with some of the more in-depth questions submitted by all of you. The first up is, how do you get your HUD in the center of the screen? And the answer to that is go into your settings and check the little box that says centralize HUD. I like this because the more information I see out of my peripherals, the better I can play. This way I never have to pull my eyes from what's going on in the middle of the battle. Someone actually commented saying on my live streams I never blink, and that's almost true. I blink very, very little, and if there's a lot going on, like if I get super excited, my eyes actually get wider and I start moving them really, really quickly. And next time you see me live stream on twitch.tv/Wrel, try to look for that. It is pretty funny once you notice it. The next question is, are you the real Wrel? In game, I'm oftentimes asked, are you the real Wrel? And most of the time I just reply very simply, I say yes or yar or whatever, but a lot of people don't believe me, and honestly I don't really care whether they do or do not believe me. I'm just trying to play the game more often than not, and taking the time to kind of stop what I'm doing, prove who I am. It's not really worth my time or my patience. So an easy way to tell if I am the real Wrel, you know, if you see me in game, is that I have 3 main accounts. I actually use 6 in total, but the last 3 are for testing purposes. The main 3 accounts that I play on are Wrel, which is my VS on Waterson, Wrel Plays, which is my NC on Waterson, and Ngeist, which is my TR on Matherson. And the names, they cross server, meaning that if I make a character named Wrel on Waterson, that's it. You can't go ahead and create a character named Wrel on Connery or wherever else. It just doesn't work like that. So 1 Wrel per PlanetSide 2, that's it. And you can send messages cross-server as well. So if you're on Matherson and I'm on Waterson, you can still talk to me. And hopefully that clears up a lot of that confusion. It's extremely, extremely common and also really annoying. So Dominator162 asks about the chamber time. Basically, most of the chamber time statistics are wrong. Flat out. I think they're wrong on everything except for the bolt-action sniper rifles. Maybe the semi-auto snipers as well. I haven't checked. But it's a good idea to ignore these stats until they're fixed. Jedi asks, do you think there should be more variability in the knife and or melee department, and why? So more is better in my opinion. In Call of Duty I actually love running knife classes, and it's very high risk, high reward, and it's the sort of like ballsy go for broke style playstyle, and I enjoy that in all of my first-person shooters. There's a reason why I'm always the first through the door. I'm taking bullets for my team and from my team in many cases, and at that point I just have to kind of cross fingers and hope that others follow me. But yeah, knifing is great. I heard that there was already a wakizashi in the game files that added more range to your knife attack for the exchange of less damage, and that would be fun. There are already some really rough max weapons as models in the game files as well, you know, 1 for each faction. So just getting those finished and out the door would be a great start. One doesn't have to be better than another, but just being able to vary our playstyles is an extremely important part of the game. You know, if you give me a bayonet that I can throw on my assault rifle, actually better yet, give me a bayonet for rifles who aren't amazing in close quarters combat so that you can gain some viability there. Or give me a knife that sucks at killing infantry but lets me deal more damage to max units and even damage vehicles and turrets. That way I can potentially outskill any target in the game, opposed to just saying, you know, well, I don't have any C4, I guess that I should just let that lightning kill me. Or, well, I just use both my C4 on that Sunderer, I hope that somebody else attacks it before it's fully repaired. If you check out the casual channel, you'll see a video of me running around as a Zoe Max, and I have no ammo left in my comments, and I'm just slapping battle rank nothings around because they don't know any better. They don't know to pull a rocket launcher or whatever. But during that video, I keep coming back to this one base turret, and I'm hitting it, and I'm hitting it, and I eventually kill it, and it takes a long time, and it takes multiple attempts, and it eventually dies. I want that on my normal infantry class, and I would like to be able to sacrifice something for it. I mean, you always have to keep an eye on balance, but I'd love to see more interesting concepts just kind of put into the world as quickly as possible, and then, you know, then reeled back or then balanced. instead of just playing it safe and comfortable like I feel that the devs are doing right now. My Mukha23 says, do you think that the community should stop complaining about everything being OP? Because how I see it is that SOE is trying to balance the game around making things different, but people aren't giving SOE the opportunity. And that's paraphrased. But the answer to that is yes and no. I feel like SOE is actually doing a really good job at interpreting the feedback that players are giving them. They know when I say something like, anchored prowlers are OP because they have this and this and this, what the player really might be trying to say is that they don't like being shelled repeatedly from long range because it makes them feel helpless and like they can't do anything about it. And in fact, it may not be that prowlers are actually the ones causing the problem. It could just be that NC is underpopulated on that player's server and they don't see vanguards doing this exact same thing as much. Now that's just an example, but what I'm not saying is that they always get the right solutions. For example, putting walls on every base in Ezimir is a pretty clumsy way to negate the amount of bombardment that tanks are actually doing. And you could add more base turrets, you could add areas where you can outflank a tank Zerg but still be part of the same fight. And there are a lot of options that don't feel like they're being explored. When it comes to scale, I don't think that the SOE quite gets it yet. To answer your question a little bit better though, people do need to complain, SOE needs to listen, and they also need to interpret those complaints. But what actually needs fixing as a result of those complaints is usually due to a much bigger issue that SOE either doesn't have the time, the manpower, the resources, the ideas, or even the heart to actually fix correctly. So instead of working on those big, meaty, meta issues, they do a lot of damage control to keep people playing and keep people happy. And that's the unfortunate reality of things right now, in my opinion. The last question that I'm going to answer is from RashMickey, and hopefully I pronounced that right, where he asks, if you took PS2 and you stuck to the basic MMO FPS model, but you could change anything else, what would you do? Basically, you're the game design god of the multiverse, and you could change anything from minor tweaks to gameplay and weapons to massive changes, including the number of factions, the setting, the lore, the graphical improvements, in-game apps, services, etc., etc. And this is a really, really fun question, and it's kind of unfair in its artistic license. Because quite honestly, I've been wanting to design and produce a video game forever and I have far too many ideas, not enough time, money, willpower, or even skill to follow through. So I'm going to keep things very basic here. I'm going to keep them very in line with PlanetSide 2, while still giving you some off-the-wall ideas that will never see the light of day. So PlanetSide 2, if I could change anything, it'd basically be everything. So there would be no such thing as instant action. Most of the small bases would be removed. The game would be very organized and very open. Whole offensives would be launched from the warp gate. So as soon as people log in, they'd run right to the galaxy, they'd climb inside, they'd be flown to battle, in style, instead of being instant action, drop potted, whatever. Transporting people in your galaxy back and forth from the warp gate to the battle would be a profession. It'd be a skill. It'd be extremely rewarding for the pilot, as well as the more people that you went and you picked up and you dropped off in a hot zone, the more experience that you get. And if a galaxy isn't quite your style, then there would be other transport craft, both land and air, smaller than a Sunderer, bigger than a Harasser or ESF. Transportation logistics, it would actually mean something. Also, capturing a tech plant or other major facility would not just be something that you happen to do because it's more territory. It would be a huge, massive undertaking. It might take you hours or even days to capture the thing, and your tech plant would then become your new warp gate. That's where you'd spawn when you log in. You still have the other warp gate. It'd basically be to fall back and resupply at. But when you spawn, when you log in, that's where your galaxies are going to line up. That's where you're going to ship off from. This would make things significant, imagine if your tech plant was twice as big, bigger vehicle bay, more landing pads, more buildings below, making a small city that surrounds it. So remember that your tech plant would now be your new warp gate. It'd be like a forward staging point. So you'd have a bubble shield the same as your warp gate. It would be able to be attacked by enemy vehicles and slowly weakened over time. Maybe amp stations could give you energy to your tech plant shields. Maybe you can even steal energy. Small squads can drop behind bases, steal energy from enemy amp stations, and then bring that back to your base. It would make taking a major facility so much more impactful because bam, it's like you own this territory now, right? It's going to take you a large, massive, concerted effort to take it back from me. Let's see, your scythe would be able to cloak. Mosquitoes could mount a tail gun that automatically shoots at enemies and rockets traveling behind it. Reavers could deploy floating radar jammers that disrupt lock-ons, and scythe cloaks and mosquito tail guns. Galaxies would be able to AMS again. Flash units could drop off ammo boxes to restock vehicle ammo. Max units could carry an ammo backpack that would restock friendly grenades and rockets. Sunderers would be mobile pillboxes where up to 4 infantry inside could shoot out of window slots within the vehicle. All vehicles would not die from an impact if they landed on their wheels, regardless of from which height they fell from. Infantry could equip utility slot items called parachutes, which would just act as if you had been dropped from a galaxy, meaning that after activating it, you would just fall and take no damage. Light assaults would have their Icarus jump jets back. Standard jump jets would maybe last twice as long. Drifters would last infinite at max rank. Infiltrator cloaks would regenerate while standing still and only degenerate while moving. Hunter cloak would give you a minor speed bonus. Nano armor cloaking would reduce damage taken from all sources, not just small arms fire. Infiltrators would be able to hack enemy vehicles, and the driver would be notified when it's happening. Medics could finally deploy spawn points for friendlies within bases, like small little spawn points, but players will have a cooldown on being revived now and forever. As in, if you die after being revived, within 3 minutes of having been revived, your body would disappear, so you would have to respawn. Medics themselves could replace their AoE heal with more self-serving sort of a revive self ability that has an extremely long cooldown. Engineers would press F to throw down an ammo pack, and by throw I mean throw, not like find a place and place it. The super secret alternative fire function from turrets would be removed. Turret placement would also be much more lenient than it is right now. Engineers would also be able to ditch their turret for a deployable barricade that offers more coverage and is resistant to explosive damage. The Engineer's default utility slot item is no longer a normal droppable ammo pack, it's instead going to be a backpack that automatically and passively resupplies allies with ammo who are standing near you. You'd still be able to drop a pack though by pressing F. Heavy assaults would have frontal shields instead of overshields that act much like the Aegis does right now, except that you can still shoot while using it. And this means that the heavy assaults would be less of a 1v1 I win class and more of a class meant for breaching and pushing. Collision damage would be less, you just bounce off of vehicles more often than it would kill you, unless the driver is moving at very high speeds or if you're hit with a heavier vehicle. Flash units would be about 50% faster than they are right now. They'd fly further, they'd tip over less, and in the event that you did tip over, flip over, whatever, the vehicle would not just explode. You could just dust yourself off, and then you could flip the vehicle right side up again. Same goes for lightnings, except instead of being faster, they just handle a lot better, and if they got flipped over, a max unit could come by and flip it right side up again. Vehicle smoke clouds would act like actual smoke clouds, meaning that they would last longer than they do, as well as block out lock-on attempts for vehicles sitting right next to yours. Enemies within a smoke cloud would also get their screen partially grayed. Think of like a flashbang, but instead of white, it's gray and not nearly as severe. And this way, even players who are on low settings will actually be affected by smoke in some sense. Players could use night vision goggles as a utility slot item instead of being forced to use an infrared scope or flashlight. Night vision also wouldn't suck like it currently does. It would create white outlines around terrain contours like it used to, but instead of highlighting enemies as pure white, it outlined them like it would terrain. So, boom, useful night vision again, but it's still less powerful than the more expensive thermal optics. Outfits would have their own camos, their own cosmetics, their own logos, and their own banners that would display at bases that they had a major hand in capturing. I mean, they could even have their own signature weapon attachments, like a barrel option that gives a unique looking muzzle flash, so you know exactly who's shooting at you. More than that, outfits would unlock these things through an experience system, so not experience earned by members, but experience gained from conquering objectives. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now. I know that was basically a whole list of just the cool stuff that I want in the game, and it doesn't go into huge lengths as to actually how to fix the problems with the game. But, hey, who knows? PlanetSide 2 is still very, very young, so hopefully we'll see a lot of additions in the future on top of the solutions to problems that the game is currently facing. Anywho, that is it for the PlanetSide 2 community call. Hopefully I wasn't talking too quickly for you, especially for the non-English speakers. I didn't get around to every question, as some of them I simply don't have the answers to yet. But do keep posting them, keep sending me your loadouts, keep sending me your challenges. The more material that I have, the more often I'll be able to do these sorts of things. But if this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel. And I think that a really great question to ask would be, if you could change one thing about PlanetSide 2, you name it, doesn't matter, what would it be? Leave those thoughts in the comment section down below. Thanks very much, folks. Wrel signing off.